I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of the Russian Federation.
Thank you, Mr. President. With regret, we have been witnessing yet another attempt to bring for the consideration of the General Assembly a highly politicized and unbalanced document, a document that is liable to merely worsen the disagreement among member states, but a document which in no way helps to facilitate cooperation between the United Nations and the OPCW. Of late, this is the second such attempt which we have observed. In early autumn of last year, at the prompting of our Western colleagues, the General Assembly adopted a biased anti-Syrian draft resolution on the implementation of the provisions of the Chemical Weapons Convention, the CWC. Now, the same motivations are evident in the document that has been submitted today. We wish to ask our Western colleagues, what is its added value if this text is, by 90% of this text, is a ritual reiteration welcoming the accusatory conclusions addressed to Damascus, vis-a-vis Damascus. Apparently, they wanted the General Assembly to literally rubber stamp uniform anti-Syrian resolutions each time they mention the OPCW. The Russian Federation, like many other states, views the decision of the fourth special session of the Conference of States Parties of the CW as illegitimate, insofar as it enabled the Technical Secretariat of the OPCW to overstep its mandate and to establish the so-called Identification and Investigation Team. Such innovations run counter to the CWC, the Chemical Weapons Convention, and they undermine the prerogatives of the United Nations Security Council. With each day, we see a multiplication of facts reflecting that the U.S. and Euro-Atlantic allies are striving to transform the OPCW, a specialized and technical by nature international structure, to transform that OPCW into a tool for the advancement of their parochial geopolitical agendas. The fruits of such a political endeavors was included the first report of the IIT, which withstands no criticism, both in terms of methodology for its being drafted and in terms of the compilation of facts. What followed was a deliberately unimplementable decision of the 94th session of the technical of PCW for Syria, which demanded that Damascus declare chemical weapons which it did not have in its possession. The Russian Federation can neither acknowledge the legitimacy of the IIT itself, nor the legitimacy of its report, nor the legitimacy of the decisions of the guiding bodies of the OPCW set out on its basis. We have a host of criticisms vis-a-vis the work of the fact-finding mission in Syria, specifically in terms of the investigation into the incidents in Han Sheikhoun in 2017 and in Duma in 2018. In order to discuss the multitude of violations by the Technical Secretariat of the OPCW into those instances, to that end, last year we held an open ARIA format meeting for members of the Security Council with the participation of independent experts. We call upon all interested delegations to familiarize themselves with the material that was submitted subsequent to that meeting. These were circulated as official documents of the General Assembly, A/75/649, dating 11 December 2020. There are many inconvenient questions for the Technical Secretariat of the OPCW, and these are questions to which no response has been provided. Based on the draft set out, drawn up by the Netherlands, the essence has been completely gutted. The essence being a panoramic overview of all tracks of cooperation between the United Nations and the OPCW and progress in this area. It seems that the only theme and the only subject dealt with by the OPCW is the Syrian chemical dossier and Syria specifically itself. And if we are to focus on the country-specific aspects, then it would be logical for the OPCW to also report, for example, on progress in terms of the United States' destruction of its chemical arsenals, which is still ongoing and has not concluded. Yet there's no mention of that whatsoever. At the same time, there is no reflection therein about the principally important provisions of Article 11 of the Chemical Weapons Convention on Social and Economic Cooperation of states parties to the convention. What is telling is that there has been no genuine negotiations work carried out by these sponsors on the draft text. The delegation of the Netherlands organized only one round of informal consultations with effectively no practical result. Not a single of the many substantive remarks set out by delegations during this meeting were reflected in the final text. We believe that the resolution on cooperation between the United Nations and the OPCW should by definition be consensual. The purpose is to send a political message about unconditional support from the international community for the chemical weapons non-proliferation regime and the positive nexus between the United Nations and the OPCW. And the Russian Federation would have been ready to accept such a consensus with pleasure were the draft that was tabled to meet this had the draft met that criteria. And yet, unfortunately, it is geared towards achievement of a single goal, that being to denigrate the Syrian authorities and to advance ideas that are damaging for the integrity of the Chemical Weapons Convention and the authority of the OPCW. This is something which we, as a conscientious participant in the OPCW, cannot countenance. For this reason, the Russian Federation will vote against this politicized document. We also call for all states who are eager to maintain the authority of the OPCW and to ensure that the organization effectively fulfill its genuine goals, for all those states to also follow suit, that genuine goal being strengthening the non-proliferation regime for chemical weapons. Thank you.
I thank the distinguished representative of the Russian Federation.